It was a rainy morning in Paris when N'Golo Kanté decided to make a discreet visit to an orphanage on the outskirts of the city, far from the spotlight. It was something he liked to do whenever he had a break from training or matches: visit institutions, help anonymously, look into the eyes of those the world often forgot. He walked with his hands in his pockets, hood over his head, trying to remain anonymous. The light rain trickled down the sidewalk, giving the atmosphere a melancholic tone. Upon arriving, he was welcomed by Madame Leroy, the director of the orphanage, an elderly lady, soft-spoken with a keen gaze. She recognized Kanté immediately, but respected his wish for discretion. "It's an honor to have you here, Mr. Kanté. The children will be very happy." He smiled shyly and simply asked to talk with some of the kids, play a bit, maybe kick the ball around in the yard. He was led to a room where about 20 children sat in a circle, drawing. He knelt beside a boy who was sketching a soccer field with 2 goals and a lone player in the middle, wearing the number 7 jersey. "Do you like football?" he asked softly. The boy looked up and smiled. He was about 9 years old, with dark brown eyes, curly hair, and an uncanny resemblance to someone Kanté knew very well, though he couldn't quite place who. The boy answered enthusiastically, "Yes, I'm a midfielder just like Kanté. He's the best player in the world, and the most humble. One day I want to be like him." Kanté chuckled gently. "Really? And what's your name?" "Ibrahim. Ibrahim Kanté." The world seemed to stop for a moment. The sound of the rain, the voices of the other children, everything faded. Ibrahim Kanté. That last name wasn't common, and the name, Ibrahim. The same name as N'Golo's older brother, who had suddenly passed away in 2018 from a heart attack. The pain of that loss was still an open wound. But he had never known his brother had left behind a child. "Ibrahim Kanté?" he repeated, trying to stay calm. The boy nodded, smiling. "My mom said my dad was a great man, but she died when I was 4. I came here after that." Kanté felt a sharp pang in his chest. "Did you know your father?" "Only through the stories my mom told, and pictures. She said he was the brother of a famous player, but no one ever told me who." With the director's permission, N'Golo asked to see the boy's file. When Madame Leroy brought the folder with documents, photos, and notes, his heart tightened. There it was, the birth certificate. Ibrahim Diallo Kanté, son of Ibrahim Kanté and Awa Diallo. Awa, he remembered her. She had a brief relationship with his brother when he still lived in Paris. It all made sense now. The dates, the names, the faces. N'Golo sat in silence, looking at an old photo of his brother holding a newborn baby. The same dimple in the cheek, the same calm gaze. His eyes welled up. Why had no one told them? Why didn't the family know about the boy? "He's your nephew?" Madame Leroy asked gently. Kanté simply nodded, unable to speak. He stood up, took a deep breath, and returned to the room where the boy was now drawing a field with 2 people, a child and an adult playing together. "Do you want to play with me outside?" Ibrahim asked, with a naturalness that completely disarmed the player. "Sure," Kanté replied, with an emotional smile. "Let's go." The 2 went down to the yard and started kicking around an old ball between puddles. Ibrahim ran, laughed, dribbled with skill. Kanté just watched, amazed at the boy's lightness and joy. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he was reconnecting with a lost part of himself. The boy's laughter seemed to echo the childhood games he once played with his brother. That day, something shifted within N'Golo. And unknowingly, the life of Ibrahim and the entire Kanté family was about to be changed forever. In the days that followed, N'Golo Kanté couldn't think about anything else. The image of Ibrahim, his smile, the way he ran after the ball, the stories he told about his mother and the little he knew about his father, kept replaying in his mind. It was as if a new branch had appeared in his family tree, one that had been hidden, forgotten by everyone, yet real, alive, and undeniable. He returned to the orphanage the very next day, and the day after that, and again. It was no longer just a casual or philanthropic visit. It was personal. Ibrahim would run into his arms every time he arrived, as if they had known each other for years. He would climb into his lap, laugh, tell him stories about school, and show him his drawings. The orphanage staff began to notice something different in their bond. The other children liked KANTÉ, of course, but Ibrahim seemed to share something deeper with him, as if he saw in the player more than just a football idol. Ngolo knew he needed to talk to his family. That same week, he traveled to his childhood home in the suburbs of Paris, where his mother and two of his siblings still lived. He sat down with them in the living room, holding the file of documents from the orphanage. "I have something to show you." KANTÉ's mother, a woman of faith, strong and composed, watched silently as he placed the birth certificate on the table. "Ibrahim KANTÉ, our Ibrahim's son." There was a long silence. The name of his deceased brother still hurt all of them, but the revelation struck like lightning. No one had known the boy existed. Awa, the child's mother, had never reached out to the family after the father's death. News of Awa's own death had also gone unnoticed, buried under the grief of that difficult year. "He has your brother's eyes," said his mother, touching the photo of the boy. "How did we miss this? How did we not know?" Ngolo took a deep breath. "That doesn't matter now. What matters is that he's alive. He's in an orphanage, alone, and he carries our brother's blood." They made the decision together. They would bring Ibrahim home. He would be legally adopted, raised as part of the family, given everything he always deserved. But more than that, KANTÉ wanted him to know the value of his name. He wanted him to understand his father's story, to connect with his roots, to know where he came from. While the adoption process followed the legal steps, Ngolo began deepening the bond with Ibrahim. He took the boy to Chelsea games, showed him behind the scenes, introduced him to players, but not as a celebrity hosting a fan, as a proud uncle showing his nephew the world. Once in London, Ibrahim walked into the team locker room for the first time. He was shy, quiet, until one of the players joked, "Hey, KANTÉ, your kid looks just like you." Everyone laughed, including the boy, who quickly replied, "I'm his nephew, but one day I'll play here too." The phrase was met with applause. The coach snapped a picture of the two side by side, both wearing Chelsea jerseys, and said, "This one's going on the club's history wall." But not everything was easy. The transition had its bumps. Ibrahim had nightmares, sometimes withdrew into himself, and asked about his mother. One night, while staying at KANTÉ's house, he woke up crying, asking why his mother had died and why his father never came for him. Ngolo hugged him tightly. "Your father loved you so much. He just didn't have the time. But he's here with you now, in me, in Grandma, in your uncles. You have a whole family that's going to love you every day of your life." Those words, said with such truth, seemed to fill a hole that had lived inside the boy for years. The orphanage visits officially ended when, after months of processing, KANTÉ was granted legal guardianship of his nephew. The media, unaware until then, began to speculate when Ibrahim appeared next to the player at more than one public event. A tabloid published a piece suggesting KANTÉ had a secret son. In a rare interview, Ngolo chose to speak up. "He's not my son. He's better than that. He's my brother's son. He's my blood. He's my mission." Social media was flooded with messages of support. Former national teammates, footballers from around the world, fans of all ages shared the story with emotion. But to KANTÉ, this wasn't about the media. It was deeply personal. One quiet summer afternoon while playing in the backyard, Ibrahim asked, "Uncle, do you think my dad can see me from heaven?" KANTÉ knelt down, placed his hands on the boy's shoulders, and answered, "I'm sure he can, and I think he's very, very proud of you." The boy smiled, a smile full of peace. And in that moment, for the first time since it all began, Ngolo felt that the pain of losing his brother had finally transformed into something greater: redemption. Time passed, and Ibrahim grew up surrounded by the love and stability he had never known during his early years. Now living in London, he attended an international school and trained at a youth football academy affiliated with Chelsea. His progress impressed everyone. He had natural talent, tactical intelligence, and a calmness on the pitch that reminded many of his uncle. But what stood out the most about Ibrahim wasn't his football skills. It was his humility. It was common to see him helping younger kids during training sessions, picking up cones after practice, or thanking the school bus driver with a sincere smile. Everyone knew he was Kanté's nephew, but he never used that as a shield. On the contrary, he always made sure to work twice as hard, as if he were honoring that name with every step he took. At home, his relationship with Kanté's family grew stronger every day. N'Golo's mother, now officially his grandmother, treated Ibrahim as her most cherished grandchild. She taught him Fulani words, cooked traditional dishes, told stories about Senegal and his father's youth, and helped him piece together the emotional puzzle of his identity. One afternoon, while they were cleaning the backyard together, Ibrahim paused, looked up at her and asked, "Do you think my dad would have loved me?" With tears in her eyes, she answered without hesitation, "He would have loved you more than anything in this world, my son. He would have protected you, guided you, hugged you, but he left you in the hands of the best man I know." Ibrahim smiled. It was the answer he had needed. Meanwhile, N'Golo began working on a new project, one born from the deep impact of his experience, the creation of a foundation in his brother's name. The Ibrahim Kanté Foundation would support orphans and abandoned children in both France and Senegal. The initiative focused on education, sports, psychological support, and most of all, reconnecting children with their identity, roots, and sense of belonging. The official launch of the foundation took place in a small private ceremony at the same orphanage where everything began. In the audience were former teammates from the French national team, club executives, close friends, and of course, Ibrahim, now 12 years old, wearing a navy blue suit and red tie, seated in the front row. N'Golo stepped onto the stage and spoke with a voice full of emotion. "A few years ago, I came to this place simply intending to donate some time. But I found so much more. I found a nephew, a legacy, a new purpose for my life." The room fell silent. He took a deep breath and continued, "This foundation is for all the Ibrahims out there, waiting to be seen, who carry a light inside them but just need someone to say, 'I believe in you.'" The applause lasted long. After the event, Ibrahim walked through the orphanage halls with his uncle. "Do you think those kids will have the same luck I had? I think they'll have hope. And sometimes, hope is all we need to start." Shortly after, the two traveled to Senegal together for the first time. It was a trip N'Golo had always dreamed of taking with his brother, but life hadn't allowed it. Now, he was doing it with his brother's son. There, they visited the village where their parents were born. They walked along dusty red roads, met distant relatives, joined in local celebrations. Ibrahim visited his grandfather's grave, knelt down, touched the soil, and whispered, "Thank you for letting me be a part of this." During the trip, N'Golo felt something healing within himself too. The pain of his brother's death had been transformed into the living presence of his nephew. It was as if life had found a new way, a second chance to do things differently. Months later, in an interview with a British sports magazine, Ibrahim was asked what it was like living with one of France's greatest footballers. He answered naturally, "I don't live with a football star. I live with the kindest man I've ever known." The quote went viral. It touched hearts around the world. But Kanté, as always, remained quiet. He never liked the spotlight when it came to personal matters. Behind the scenes, he continued going to training, helping his mother with groceries, taking Ibrahim to school, and attending meetings with the football academy. He was, in every way, a normal man, but with a heart that had become extraordinary. When Ibrahim turned 15, he was officially invited to join Chelsea's youth team. In the locker room, with teary eyes, he held his first official jersey, with his name printed on the back, "I KANTÉ." N'Golo watched from the stands, emotional. Beside him, his mother held his hand. "He's going far," she said, "and you gave that to him." "No," N'Golo replied. He gave that to me. And so, the boy who once sat drawing a lonely football field in an orphanage had found a home, an identity, and a mission. And the KANTÉ family, once scarred by loss, had found redemption, purpose, and a new generation to carry on the legacy. After all, sometimes life doesn't give us what we ask for, but what we need to become whole again.